Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Vancouver. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Gabe Carlton Barnes. We've got a weird situation here, Gabe.
Sure do.
So we've got 8 players on our top tables, all on 36 points coming into the round, except for the top 2 who are on 37. They've all intentionally drawn.
Yep.
They think that that makes the top 8.
And 37 points will make the top 8. The problem is there might be more than enough people with 37 points.
Right, and one of them is on the left side of your screen, Kenji Egashira. If he wins this match, will have the requisite 37 points. Now that does not guarantee him a spot in the top 8. In fact, we think it might not even give him a great shot at it.
Might not be quite enough, yeah. So Kenji is currently in 9th, and if he wins, he'll remain in 9th if the tiebreakers stay the same. So he would jump up to 37 points, and he has exactly 65.5% tiebreakers. Now, Jesse Moulton, who's in 8th and just took a draw to land on 37 points, has 66.8% tiebreakers. So he's got over a point on him, and Daniel Ward in 7th has 2 points on him. So those aren't big numbers, though. That's the thing. Those numbers can swing in this round. So if Kenji wins, he's hoping that his prior opponents also get wins. He's playing against
Martin Zafra, who is actually 1 point behind where Kenji's at.
Right, so he is actually does not have a chance to make top 8 here, but he does have a chance to make top 16.
Get the money.
The money and the pro points that go with it. So
right, so this is a win and pray for Kenji Egashira, and for Marcel, this is him looking to grind out as many pro points and dollars as he can by trying to beat Kenji here. So we've got an interesting spot. Some of the people that we are pretty sure are just going to be in the top 8, Florian Koch and Robbie Schmidt have taken a draw at 37 already, so they're in.
Yeah.
And then we've got Dan Lanthier, Alexander Hain, Tom Martell, Steven Speck, Daniel Ward, and Jesse Moulton as well. Now, one of those guys, maybe 2, could get bumped mathematically, but what we're watching here is Kenji trying to put himself in a spot to bump.
And on our second feature match table, we have a very similar situation. The next player on the standings is Max Walsh. He also has a chance to sneak some tie breaks if he wins and get into the top 8.
So Kenji's the one with a lot on the line here. Marcel does have quite a bit too, but not top 8.
Right.
And so we'll see if Kenji can pull this off and then pull the miracle of jumping up in the standings as well, which is he's not mathematically likely to do, but it is possible. So
yeah, and it's certainly not unlikely. These numbers jump all the time.
They do, and he's only, what was it, a little over a percentage point off?
Right, he's very close.
Yeah, could totally happen. So
Max Walsh, he's slightly longer shot. He's 3 percentage points back. So
Marcel on the other side would like to prevent Kenji from having that opportunity.
Yeah.
And in the process, get him some more pro points and some more dollars.
Exactly.
Can't blame him for that. So
we have
like we've got the Splinter Twin Mirror here, GCB, and we just watched one of those on camera. In the previous round, Kenji played in our back match against Martin Golden Kirsten, pulled out a pretty dramatic victory there to put himself in this position, and now he's got to do it once again just to go stand in front of the head judge until the head judge reads the top 8 announcement, and keep your fingers crossed as he works his way down to number 7 and 8.
He's trying to earn himself a sweat. Well, given how long that last match went, almost to the end of the round, maybe he won't have to sweat that long if he can drag this out and pull out a close win.
So again, everybody above where Kenji's at, which was currently 9th in the standings coming in, has drawn. That's why we're showing you this match. Those are all done in the books, drawn, trying to give themselves a shot at top 8.
Yep.
6 of whom will make it for sure, maybe even all 8. And there's Deceiver Exarch to untap Steam Vents.
Yeah, so Kenji with and this is on his own turn.
He main phased that.
Main phased it, yeah. So he wants to get it around potential counter spells from Zafra potentially, but Zafra had 2 mana up, so
yeah, kind of interesting.
It is an interesting play, yeah.
Jeez, I am blinded by Zafra's foil cards here. This guy doesn't mess around.
Yeah, he's got a lot of shiny cards over there.
Indeed.
now Zafra in the awkward position of needing to keep mana up to protect himself from a potential twin. Having the creature in play makes it very awkward for your opponent.
I see a Lightning Bolt in hand for Zafra though, so he could go for Grim Lavamancer plus Lightning Bolt here to try to take out the Exarch.
Yep.
Usually you would lead with the Bolt, make sure it resolves, because it's much harder for Kenji to interact with the Grim Lavamancer activation.
Right. And of course Kenji cannot go for the twin here, even if he had the 4th land or he could, but he has to be thinking, yeah.
He's also missed a land drop, and now Marcel on NSEP is going to go for this play that we just described. So here's Lightning Bolt on Exarch. And Kenji has to decide right now if he wants to use that Dispel. He's also got a Remand he could fire off.
And he will. He likes that position of having this creature in play that makes Marcel nervous, makes Marcel have to operate under, awkward circumstances. Marcel is now the one missing a land drop.
Interesting. This is a weird little game we've got here.
It certainly is.
And there's a land off the top for Egashira.
And you can see him thinking, well, I could have it here, I guess. He has to think that it's a little too dangerous, though. Again, if he makes that play here, and all Marcel has is his own Exarch, he can play his Exarch, tap the Exarch before the Splinter Twin resolves, preventing the combo. Untap, maybe draw a land himself and win.
Kill him, yeah.
It's one of those situations you can't really go for it to open mana. It's not just a risk of losing or having it countered, it's a risk of actually losing the game.
Here's Snapcaster Mage from Zafra. That's what he's decided on. And this is going to get remanded. Kenji's had enough.
And that's great for Kenji. He picks up a very important land, a Desolate Lighthouse.
Indeed.
Allowing him to sculpt his hand.
Speaking of important lands, Marcel's just hit his 4th here with that Flooded Strand.
Yep.
Also continuing his foil streak. My goodness. Beautiful. So here's the Desolate Lighthouse that you mentioned a minute ago, GCB. Really nice in these sort of I'm not going to do anything, you're not going to do anything games.
Right.
You can really start sculpting a beautiful hand. There's going to be some cards in his hand that he's not really going to want in the mirror.
Yeah, you can discard those extra Splinter Twins. Marcel goes for an island. Do you think he's going to do something on instep here? Probably another Snapcaster.
He's got a full grip. I think he's got 6 cards in his hand. Yeah, you're right. Snapcaster Mage.
So he can try that
He's
Lightning
go
Bolt
for the
again.
Bolt thing again.
Yeah.
I see that there's a Vendilion Click here.
Lightning Bolt going to get hit by a Remand. This is the...
Which exiles the Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, talked about how great that Remand is against Flashback.
Fantastic.
You still get to draw a card, but they don't get their card back, so... World's cheapest dismiss.
And here's an interesting one as well. Snapcaster Mage just attacking right into the Exarch because Kenji knows that the Grim Lavamancer activation can finish it off, so he doesn't even block.
Right.
And here's a Vendilion Click on end step. So this is Kenji trying to clear the way, and it looks like that's going to pick up a Remand.
Yeah. The ability to look at Marcel's hand and find out if he can just go for the win is huge. Now, it's interesting to see how much work Grim Lavamancer has done this game without ever doing anything.
It hasn't actually done a thing, but it has been fantastic.
Yeah. Now, Marcel is going to think about for a moment. No, he does not.
Whoa, that was a big pump fake. He kind of got me in the air with that one.
Yeah, he was thinking about playing an upkeep creature.
Nice.
He could very well have just lost the game there.
Yeah, he could have. Here's Gitaxian Probe for Kenji. And now he's going to get that juicy information, which is Snapcaster Mage, Serum Visions, a pair of Splinter Twins, and another card is so shiny. I think it's another Snapcaster. I can't see it though.
Is the door open?
He's overwhelmed.
What is that last card?
The light capacity of our cameras with so many foils.
Yeah, it looks like he might just have the game here.
Is it a Snapcaster Mage?
Yeah, he has it.
Yeah, he just had it.
The incredible power here of just seeing your opponent's hand. You know, he couldn't go for it and couldn't go for it and couldn't go for it until he got to look at Marcel's hand, and then that was it.
And it had a lot of nice spells, but none of them interacted profitably with what Kenji was trying to do. You see him wipe his brow as he picks up the game 1 here. He needs one more win. If he gets it, then he gets a sweat. Then he gets to go find out if he's going to have a chance at top 8. He's going to have to get lucky to do it.
And if he makes that top 8, he qualifies for the Pro Tour, right?
Yeah, his first one.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be incredible.
Yeah, he had a real heartbreaker just a few days ago on Magic Online. He actually streamed a PTQ that he played in. It was limited, and he made the finals, and he made it to Game 3, and he got his opponent to like 1.
That is rough.
And couldn't win.
Yeah, so he could taste the Pro Tour and then just didn't get there.
All right, little live looking / turbo here. We're kind of combining things. This is sweet.
Yeah, so this again, Max Walsh on your left, in the same situation as Kenji, but with not the same. His tiebreakers are much worse, so his
they're like
odds
3% lower, right?
Right.
Yeah. So even with a win, Max isn't in a great spot to even have a chance at top 8. Of course, that isn't going to stop him from trying it.
And you know, those tiebreakers do move. It is totally possible that Max wins here and makes it.
Yeah.
You know, even if Kenji does, the tiebreakers can jump a lot.
Yeah, because what you need to do is have yours go up and the other person's go down, right? You need to meet in the middle. That's what, because he's probably not going to make up 3% on his own, but he can make up 1.5%. Somebody could give up a couple of percent, and all of a sudden, bang, he's in there.
And the thing is, there's a lot of folks that are within range. You know, he's not going to catch up with the folks right at the top: Dan Lanthier, Alex Hayne, probably Tom Martell. But Daniel Ward and Jesse Moulton are both pretty low on those tie breaks comparatively, and Steven Speck even is within range. So.
And they did take a draw. Now that was the risk that those gentlemen took when they took that draw.
Yep. Good odds for them, but not insurmountable.
Right.
As we see a murderous cut here, Max trying to summon those defenses against the dangerous red creatures.
Murderous cut's great against Eidolon.
Really is great.
Take anything. Costs 1, but costs 5.
Yeah, but the converted mana cost prevents the Eidolon damage, and so
looks like they're having a little fight here where Shard Volley's trying to get.
Shard Volley is probably going to the face. I think the Snapcaster blocked the Monastery Swift Spear.
Right, and he's trying to get his Swift Spear up above, toughness-wise, but the Bolt finished it off. And here's young Pyromancer and Gitaxian Probe to make a token. Ooh, that's not good news.
But you'll see him pay that mana for the Gitaxian Probe, so that's 10 points of damage sitting in that hand. And
can't imagine that Max is at a super high life total at this point.
Max is really interesting. Grixis stack looks like he might be in trouble, though.
He's at 5 right now.
And there he's really got
Delver.
Going.
3, 4, 5, 6. Another Snapcaster.
Well, this is Snapcaster. He's targeting his Gitaxian Probe. He's going to draw a card.
Make another token.
He's looking for Deprive. He has Deprive in his deck, and he really wants.
You're right. And there's Lightning Bolt on end step to bring him down, and this is going to be lethal Skullcrack, assuming that it resolves. That it does. Oh, and I think Max just looked at the top card of his library and might have found what he wanted there.
Yeah.
So kind of pat it, but
it's a close one.
That was a very close one. This one was properly close as well between Kenji and Marcel.
Yeah, Marcel having a really good hand, but just not the cards to stop the combo, and Kenji got to find out with the Gitaxian Probe. See why some people are playing Peak in this. You can end step a Peak to find out what's happening.
Instant mulligan for Marcel Zafra.
Kenji looks in a hand with a lot of lands.
He kept. So what do you think about a land-heavy hand in this type of matchup?
I think it's good. I think the thing that can really be a struggle is if you get stuck, as you saw both these players do, on 3 lands, suddenly you're really vulnerable. It's hard for you to fight what they're doing while also making proactive moves yourself. It's also, you can't do things like Snapcaster and, play a card draw spell because you have to do that with sorcery speed. Because the card draw flashback spells are almost all sorceries.
So you need to build up some mana so you can keep your shields up while doing that kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think that what we were just talking about has a really interesting effect on this too. A lot of times in a control mirror, you could keep a very land-heavy hand, and this plays out somewhat like a control mirror where you're kind of like, well, we're just going to dance around each other for a long time, and I'll craft my hand. But the peaks and the Gitaxian Probes really change that. If you keep a 5-lander with not a lot of action, a lot of times if the person's never going to see your hand, you could feel pretty safe that they just don't have they're just not going to risk it, right? But now, he sets up a win and he goes Gitaxian Probe you, and you're just really light on action. It's like, whoops.
You got me.
Yeah.
It is very similar to those control mirrors. You have a lot of countering effects, a lot of instant speed play, and of course in those control matchups, usually the one threat that resolves is really hard to deal with, an Aetherling or something like that.
Right.
So even though it doesn't kill the player right away, it usually means the game is going to end as a result of that resolving.
All right, well, Marcel, really nice here. considering that he was on a mold of 6, has really got to craft his hand with these pair of Serum Visions in the early game, while Kenji can't really do much about it,
Right.
and can't punish him for it.
Kenji showing, I can see an Exarch and a Remand and 3 more lands over there. I think Marcel might have drawn a Grim Lavamancer. Marcel keeps both on top. It's not what Kenji wants to see.
That's always scary.
Yeah, they put both on top.
That's where you want Thought Scour.
Exactly. It's also very similar to those situations where your opponent looks at your hand with a Vendilion Clique and says, okay, you can keep those.
Yeah, and you thought your hand was good.
Yeah. Like, oh no. Flame Slash for Kenji. And he's drawing spells, so that land heavy hand looking okay. And again, like a control mirror, it looks like we're going to see a whole lot of...
Speaking of Thought Scour.
Yep, there it is. A whole lot of draw, land, go.
Kind of jockeying for position, though no land draw there for Marcel Zafra. He did find something decent.
Kenji trying to put himself
Pestilence.
ahead again by having the creature in play.
It's just a threat, right? It just sits there and says, I could win at any time if you tap too low.
Yep, and it worked out for him last game.
It did.
That's
Is that
exactly
a Harvest Pyre in hand for Zafra?
I think it is, and he may use it right
He
now.
could just allow that to happen and then just blow out 4 cards out of his yard and just kill the Exarch. You got to figure that that's worth it here. Oh, it's
We
like
saw how
he's decided
dangerous it
on
was.
Remand, though.
Well, that lets him draw a card and maybe find that next land that he needs.
Yeah.
I think he's really happy with that.
There's a probe for Kenji, which, well, he's going to run it out there. You know, I think you can make an argument for waiting as well.
Certainly.
Right? I mean, if he needs to hit a land drop, sure, but he doesn't here. He's got an extra land in his hand, and sometimes you want to hold on to those probes until the moment when you're trying to get ready to go off and you can really map out your plan. From here, you know, Kenji's going to have to do some maneuvering.
He could also have seen a hand, though. I mean, if it's not for that Harvest Pyre, this is almost a hand where he can go for it. He can just play his creature now, and next turn, into 1 card, play Splinter Twin. Unfortunately, Zafra does have that interaction where he can tap the creature that's being targeted and then untap and play his own Splinter Twin, assuming he gets a land, which he does not.
Now, Kenji could have played his Deceiver Exarch on his turn like he did in the previous game, but he chose not to. And Zafra, even though he drew a Serum Visions, I believe has just passed the turn back.
Yes, he has.
Kenji's not going to make any bold actions here. He's just going to go for Desolate Lighthouse on end step. Zafra could use this as a time to resolve something.
He could.
He knows
will.
that Kenji's not going to end up, you know, with the creature in play here.
So nice play by Zafra there, actually. You know, he's a little tight on mana, and he takes advantage of that loot as an opportunity to now put himself in the driver's seat with a threat in play. Of course, Kenji has a sorcery speed removal spell, so I'm sure he's not too unhappy about the way that worked out.
Yeah, Kenji's going to be really happy to get value out of that Flame Slash there.
Yep.
There's that Splinter Twin floating around too. Kenji could just go for the Exarch here.
It's nice here. He can untap one of his own lands.
He can.
So now he's got 2 up.
Wow, this could be huge here.
He's got a Dispel in his hand and a Remand, I think. I see Dispel, certainly.
He knows a lot about Zafra's hand too. I think he knows all but 1 card.
There is that risk, though. If he goes for it here, assuming that his Dispel is going to defend his twin, he does lose to the play of Zafra having a Deceiver Exarch.
Doesn't he have a Remand for that?
Well, he needs another mana to be able to cast it. So here you see him wisely play conservatively. He casts a Serum Vision instead.
Okay.
He drew a land, so he can do that next turn.
So Kenji is setting up for the potential kill next turn here.
Right. Certainly if he draws another land, it would be quite
And there's
promising.
a Snapcaster Mage now from Zafra.
Kenji is going to...
Does he care about the Snapcaster?
Well,
What is it hitting?
I
I
don't.
think you have to save your Remand for the Harvest Pyre, right? Because that's the kind of card that you can.
He has a Dispel.
Expensive. He's got a Dispel as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't know. Like, what does the Snapcaster actually do
I
here?
think it's going to get a Thought Scour. And so the real threat here is that Marcel draws an extra card, and that helps him get to that land. Because Marcel being choked on mana is one of the things that allows Kenji to go for it.
Interesting. Could Remand the Thought Scour as well.
Could remain the Thought Scour.
Now he's let him keep the Snapcaster Mage around, and boom, Marcel did hit an island off the top of his deck here too.
Yes, he did.
So pretty aggressive from Kenji there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Snapcaster is, something in play, and if Marcel's going to be going for, play Snapcaster, that's costing him mana again.
Yeah,
and Marcel's kind of choked on mana.
It's true. I'm looking at Kenji's hand though. I think he now has double Dispel, and
Yep.
and his Splinter Twin. I mean, that's the kind of shields up that feels pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, again, the problem is, none of those counter a creature. So now, if
Right.
Marcel's response is an Exarch of his own, or a
Now the Remand's gone for Kenji.
right. Of course, Zafra doesn't know what's in Kenji's hand, so he may just try to play a more typical response, targeting the Exarch or trying to counter the twin. And you'll see
He's
Kenji
going for it. Kenji's going for it.
And I think you have to here.
This could backfire huge for Kenji though, depending on how Zafra decides to play this.
right.
If he goes for Harvest Pyre, I think Zafra's just losing this game because Kenji can counter both Harvest Pyre. He can.
Now, does Marcel actually have an Exarch or a Splinter Twin? I don't think that he does, unless it's that.
Does he
last
not even
card.
have that option at all?
Yeah, I don't think he does.
Well, that would do it then.
So here's
Here's Remand. Now Zafra does have a Dispel, so Kenji can Dispel this,
Yep.
and Marcel can fight, but Kenji can win this fight with his other Dispel.
2 Dispels from Zafra is enough.
It is enough to win to equal things out here.
But the Splinter Twin
And
just
the
goes back to
Remand would
Kenji's
resolve.
hand.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. The Remand would resolve, but then Marcel's going to be tapped out. And I think
there you
he's
go.
only got the one.
Yeah, that's a Serum Visions over there, and then
Yeah.
the other blue card is
Sure. And Kenji's going for it here.
okay. Try
Counters
it again.
Remand.
That's it.
And that's it. Kenji Egashira is our winner
Wow.
here.
Yep.
Now remember at home, that doesn't necessarily put him in top 8. We have to now take a look, but he is now going to be standing over by the
Crossing
by
his
the pairings
fingers.
board, standing over by the head judge,
Yeah,
kind
waiting
of
for the
hovering.
announcement. And look, these percentages are close. I mean, I think he's got at least a 20% chance of making it.
Okay.
That would be, my estimate. And that's because he's trying to catch 2 different people. So if he can get his numbers to go up, he only needs one of them to go down enough.
Wow. So great
If somebody
win there
runs
by
the numbers
Kenji.
on me, it might be different, but I think it's
Well,
it's
somebody's going to
it's a
run them
solid
in
chance.
about half an hour.
And then we'll get the truth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's called our scorekeeper.
So
So let's jump in back on our back match there. Max Walsh versus Ryan Whitsitt.
fighting for a long shot here, Max is.
Indeed. He is in a similar spot to Kenji in that their records are the same and he's fighting for a chance for top 8, but he's got a much
turn
less
2
one.
Tasigur.
What? Thought Scour, huh?
Wow.
Wow.
And one of those. Oh,
Looks like
that's a
Tassigur's
great
gonna
card.
get bolted here. Was that a Dragon Claw?
That was a Dragon's Claw. So,
Dragon's Claw.
so that's going to come into play and make those red cards do a lot less damage. However,
Tassiger still did good work here.
Tasigur did great work. Soaked up a lot of damage,
5
killed the
of them.
goblin,
Yeah.
and you'll see now Max, if he has a lightning bolt here, is really in the driver's seat. That's
Was it another
Dragon Claw,
one?
And he does have a lightning bolt.
Oh my goodness.
And he gains a life. So I think he's going to win this game.
Max Walsh coming with the sideboard plan. Rift Bolt on the suspend. He says, sure, that's perfect timing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I get to play my Dragon's Claw and get a
So,
couple more
does he
life.
have
So
a-
Rift Bolt is now due 1.
Right. It's going to get really hard to get there doing 1 damage per burn spell. And here
Oh,
in
this one
response
does
to Boros turn, that did probably 3 because I expect he was responding to the dragon.
All right.
But
Yeah, but like you said, this is going to be incredibly difficult. Max does need to find something in the end here.
I'll tell you, Max had a plan against red.
No kidding. He
set it
did
in
not
Dragon
want to
Claw.
lose to them. I like it.
Well, that's something that could work around the Dragon's Claw. It's got its work cut out for it, but Grim Lavamancer, of course.
Well, yeah, he spots. Okay, let's just terminate that anyway.
Yep. Right to the graveyard. Max, just looking for a threat at this point. He's got the shields fully in place against Ryan. Ryan looking at his hand going, God, these cards don't do anything. And a Lightning Bolt, more life gain. Max also has red cards.
Of course. Easy to forget that. The Terminate and the Lightning Bolt have gained him 4 life now.
Yeah.
And now Lightning Helixes are going to try to hit Snapcasters, which are just going to get countered because Max knows that this is his clock.
Yep. Might as well close this one up. Make sure he has enough time. There's a path to exile. At least no life gained off that.
And it looks like we've caught up to real time
All
at
right.
this point.
So, Ryan Whitsitt bravely forging forward. It looks like they're in slow motion now.
Yeah. Randy and I thought that Rashad was trolling us with slow motion, but no, this is real life. I'm trying to convince Rashad to find the button to speed this part up.
That would be pretty magical.
Computer doesn't do that.
So Max at a healthy 20 here, it looks like.
He's back up to 20?
I'm surprised he's not at more, frankly. He's playing his own red spells. I think, Ryan, if we have a look at his deck list, maybe he has some ways to remove those claws, and that's what he's looking for.
He's going to need to remove multiples to it. It's just...
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ryan also could just be in the spot where he's like, look, this is the last round.
I'm gonna play it out.
It's a prayer.
All right, so he finally gave up, and that's gonna, I think, even things up here. So we're gonna get a game 3 between Max Walsh and Ryan Whitsitt.
Really interesting. I'm glad we get to watch another match with this Grixis Delver deck. I think it's a pretty neat one, and it's pretty well situated to fight the Naya Burn deck. It has access to blue counter spells to counter those final,
what kind of a deck do you see this Max Walsh deck having problems with? What are the bad matchups for a Grixis Delver?
It's one of those decks that has a little bit of fragility on its own because it's playing 18 lands, and it can have hands where it just has to spend 2 turns drawing cards with its spells. It has 13 cycling spells essentially. It can do some damage to itself. I think it's pretty well situated in that it has great removal. I'm not sure how it deals with Lingering Souls.
Lingering Souls is one of the big players.
Yep.
I wonder how it does against Abzan in general.
Right, those terminates and 1-for-1s seem pretty good, and some flying threats, but Deprive is a great card against Siege Rhino. You can take away the whole turn and they don't get the trigger, but
So I wonder if Ryan Whitsitt has the tools needed to combat Max Walsh's game plan here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Usually Naya Burn, I think, would be pretty happy to play against a deck that has a lot of little creatures. You can point the burn at them if you want, and
optionally,
and you can maximize your Searing Blazes.
Yes, which are huge.
But you saw that game, Max able to get blockers out and use his Lightning Bolts to defend against Ryan's creatures, and there goes that redundant damage. And then had the Dragon's Claws in there to protect himself from all the burn. Although it's possible that with no Dragon Claw, Max Walsh is just
clocking downwards steadily until the end. Yeah, it could be. He must have heard you. No, that we said without Dragon Claws, Max. You can come back now. Ryan looks nervous, or I shouldn't say nervous. He looks concerned. He just saw double Dragon Claw out of Max Walsh. One thing that you'll see in these bigger formats like Legacy and Modern is you'll find players that just hate losing to some certain deck.
Right.
They're just like, No.
Yep.
I've got 6 sideboard slots for Affinity because I don't like losing to Affinity. It's like, yeah, but that's like 1% of the metagame. I don't want to lose to that.
And then just
Can I borrow your Stony Silences? So, you know, it could be that Max, as a child, lost some traumatic game to mono red, and he just refuses to lose to
Well,
it.
no, he's not playing Soul Sisters. That would be that would be the thing to do there.
That's a good point.
But the Dragon's Claws, I think, really, really smart sideboard card there. You know, fits in with what his deck's doing in that it's very cheap. He has a lot of cheap spells in his deck. Buys him time, and you know he can also play cheap blue counter spells, which are there's very few ways to stop a red burn spell from doing damage to you, other than to counter it, to gain life off of it, or play something like a Leyline of Sanctity.
Looks like the judge has just spotted a little inconsistency in the sleeves of Ryan, so they'll make sure that they get that sorted.
Maybe one of the...
Yeah, it looks like they're stuck together. Maybe one of the cards crept up in the sleeve. That happens sometimes.
Yep.
You just want to make sure that no individual card is identifiable.
Right. Ryan will reshuffle a bit here.
Okay, so here comes our exciting Game 3 conclusion.
Being on the draw against a burn deck is never a good feeling in a big match. You can see Max certainly nervous.
Yeah, it looks like I think Ryan Whitsit's on 33 points here, so he's 11 and 3.
Right, it says 11-2 on it there. That's not
Yeah, that's
quite
not
accurate.
actually
It's
right.
11-3.
But Max Walsh is at 11-2-1. Whitsit. Yeah, Whitsit's at 11-3, and Max Walsh is 11-2-1, which does matter here. You know, Max is the one who's potentially live for top 8. Now we've got that percent chance down in the single
He's got
digits.
extremely long odds.
Yes.
Not only is he, you know, behind all those top 8 players, now there's another player with better tie breaks than he is at that point threshold in Kenji.
Yeah.
Ryan
So,
Whitsit
not
says,
super live.
let's start this game, both of us at 17. I'll sack a land, get a shock, and I'll
That's
give you this
fair.
lava spike.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, now the first thing I'm going to be looking for here, turn 2.
Yeah. How many claws do you have?
Dragon Claw?
Ooh, you can see that Ryan
Or
Whitsit
turn
is
2,
decided in Molten
not
Rain.
Dragon Claw, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be a big one. And
is.
once we see that turn come out of Max Walsh, then we'll have a much better idea how this game's going to go. Because if he has turn 2 Dragon Claw, he's got all the time in the world.
Now, Ryan, however, did not play a creature there, so you know Ryan doesn't have any renewable damage sources. He has to just go straight burn. He did bring in Molten Rain, interesting against this very land-like Grixis deck. Might work out quite well. But yeah, I think that the key there is, does he have the Dragon Claw? And we're going to find out here in just a moment, I think.
Not before he takes a bunch more damage.
Right. Yeah, Ryan was showing plenty of burn in his hand there.
Yeah, Whitsit's not done with this turn cycle yet. All right, here we go. What do you got, Max? Nothing.
Looks like he has Serum Vision, so
He
he
is
might be
gonna-
missing a second land,
Could be.
or he's looking for that. So yeah, he just left a land on top and put a Murderous on the bottom.
Right.
So Ryan Whitsit,
Propane Life to
Yeah.
get the land.
he has to get the land.
Desperate Axe here
Ryan
from
Whitsit
Max
looking
Walsh.
at that Molten Rain in his hand
Oh
and thinking,
my goodness.
and he's got the land to cast it.
Max Walsh is now looking at that Molten Rain. Core
Ryan Whitsit running Core
Firewalker.
Firewalker. It has protection from red.
That's Mirror Tech.
Yeah.
Can't get,
terminated.
folded or terminated.
Can't get lightning struck. Works great against Young Pyromancer.
Does it?
Well,
Like on a 1-for-1 level, I like it, but when they
Right.
have 5 tokens, it gets a little worse.
it does become a problem. But it can attack right through it. The Young Pyromancer.
That's true. That's true. As long as there's no Dragon's Claws in the way it's. Oh my goodness. Has Max done more damage to himself than Ryan's done to him?
At this point,
Yes.
he has. Yes. Yeah. And Ryan.
Ryan did 3. Max is responsible for 4 so far. All right, stuck with an island there.
Yeah, I think that was predictable, and he's gonna play another Serum Visions here. As we said, his deck just has a lot of cantrips, and he has to pay for those.
Yes.
He's got to get untapped lands or pay life for them. So this is the vulnerability that Max's deck has, and you see him here play another cantrip. And the nice thing is, that means his deck is very small, and he can dig to those Dragon Claws. He needs to get there fast. Because
he also didn't hit a land on either of the scry or the draw.
Right.
And so now he has to just cold top deck a land, and that's assuming that he has a Dragon Claw in his hand, which he might. He hasn't had a chance to actually cast one yet.
Right. And I'd be surprised if Ryan Whitsitt didn't play the Molten Rain here.
How do you ever in the world
yeah, so
pull yourself away from this opportunity?
Right. Putting Max down to
just snap
7.
it off. It feels so good.
Yeah.
Max is at 7 now. He needs to top deck a land, and you see him hit the top. Is it a land?
I think it would have hit play by now.
He's spinning the wheels on this Gitaxian Probe.
Yeah, so he looks at the hand. He says, hey, look, I'm at 7. You have 3 plus 2 damage. That's all you got. I have a chance here. Does he hit the land? No, he does not. He discards.
He says, go to my end step, and a big shake of the head from poor Max Walsh. That's a tough beat for him, but Molten Rain is really what put this thing away.
It's not away yet. Ryan Whitsitt's just
You're not ready
land.
to call this one here?
I think Ryan Whitsitt is definitely favored, but Max Walsh has a handful of cards. If he hits another land, he's going to be able to choose what he plays.
Okay.
He has a lot of cards that can block or core Firewalker. He needs Ryan to draw another land, and then he needs, after that, to draw a Dragon's Claw, or to be able to keep up mana for a Deprive and buy himself a little time. Max
He does
not
have a
completely
Deprive
out
in
of it.
hand.
There it is.
Oh.
A land.
Awkward.
Awkward.
It will put him to 3, which is going to open up effectively every burn spell in Ryan Whitsitt's list to killing him, where 4 narrows it down a little bit, but no choice here, right?
No, he has to go get a land, obviously. And then what he can do is cross his fingers that Ryan hits another land next turn, something that does nothing, and he can maybe play a Murderous Cut that he's got in his hand, taking out the Firewalker.
What land do you get here?
I think you have to get a
blue
swamp.
black, or just get a straight up swamp.
I think, yeah, you have to get a swamp. You're going to have to draw more land to get out of this anyway. He can't shock himself.
He can't shock himself because then he's dead to the Firewalker. Effectively, he's below 3 here anyway, so Kraken
He does
Fetch
have a
doesn't
Dragon's Claw in his
change
hand, and he has a Lightning Bolt.
Lightning Bolt doesn't do anything here. Right?
So,
no, Bolt doesn't do a thing. A, he can't get the mana to cast it this turn, and B, it doesn't hit the Firewalker anyway.
So I think you'll see him get a swamp and play the Dragon Claw here.
Yes.
Then he's going to get attacked down to 1. I guess the Dragon Claw protects him from... oh no, he gets an island here.
Oh.
So he's turning on his Deprive. And will he play the Dragon Claw and protect himself? It's Monastery Swiftspirit is the only thing it saves him from, so there it is.
Okay.
All right, Ryan, what do you got?
All right, Ryan can just rip almost any spell in his deck and win here.
Yep. And he rips a Searing Blaze.
Searing Blaze. He
has
can't
no
play
target.
it.
How about
I was
this?
wrong.
How about this? How
I
about
take
this?
back that any spell in his deck sentence.
I think you said
he
almost any
found
spell
the
in
one.
his deck.
Yeah, I did. True, but
So Max now,
Oh my
he's got
goodness.
to deal with Firewalker. He can't play a creature, or he loses to Searing Blaze.
okay.
And there, so he passes the turn.
So yeah, even though the Searing Blaze didn't kill him immediately, now he finds path.
There's a path. Yep. Ooh, what do we got? Snapcaster. That's going to be it because the Searing Blaze.
Yeah, now has a target. 1 damage. Well, 1 damage will kill it. He'll go back up to 2, and then he'll
He
die.
just uses the path. Says
Sure.
the core Firewalker is going to kill you.
Yep, and that's gonna do it. Ryan Whitsitt finds the win. A tough beat for Max Walsh, but it was a beat applied by Ryan Whitsitt and
certainly
his
was.
Molten